Well, let's just take a broad look at what this administration and the Republican Party all across the country are up to right now. Good Twitty was tweeting last week that, well, actually on March 31st, that just a few days ago, that a black mother in Texas who accidentally voted before her parole ended. You get this? Now, in many states, I think in most states, as long as you're not in jail, you can vote. But in the voter suppression states, in the states that have large black and Hispanic populations that the local white power structure is trying to keep down, historically, one of the ways that they keep people down is by criminalizing almost everything. So large numbers of people become criminals, and then preventing people who have a criminal background from voting, making it illegal. And in Texas, it's illegal to vote when you're on parole. This woman did not know that. She is black. She was sentenced to 5 years in prison for voting while on probation. On the other hand, the former chair of the GOP in that state, Steve Curtis, was convicted of voter fraud. He's white. He was sentenced to probation. So there's that. Then there's, Ryan Zinke lying about the public lands. Ryan Zinke is the Secretary of the Interior. He's in charge of our public parks and our public lands, which he is aggressively profitizing. I used to say privatizing. I want to start saying profitizing more, and because that's really what it is. It's like, how can we make a profit off public lands? And he said that the $18 billion investment that we're going to make is, bigger than Roosevelt's $3 billion in the CCC and would amount to 53. Anyhow, PolitiFact rates his comment where he said that this is the Interior Department's making the largest investment in our public lands infrastructure in the nation's history as false. Ryan Zinke is a liar, according to PolitiFact, the Washington Post political fact checker. But it's really, these are symptomatic of a larger trend. And that is that the Republican Party, and now that they have power, is doing at the national level what they've done at the state level for years and years when they seize control of individual states. And that is basically making life easier for corporations and billionaires and harder for everybody else. For example, there's a fascinating piece over at the Washington Post, and the title of it is How the New Tax Law Will Affect Your Home Equity Line of Credit and Second Mortgage. Now, what many people have done over the years is, they've got a home, they've got a mortgage, say they've got a home that's worth $150,000 and they've got a $100,000 mortgage on it, and their kid wants to go to college. They can get a student loan for 7 or 8%, but you can get a mortgage for 4%. So what they do is, or maybe 4.5% or 5% for a second mortgage. So what they do is they get a second mortgage. The interest is tax deductible, whereas the interest on student loans is not. So the interest is tax deductible, and if there's a crisis, somebody gets sick and the family is broke or whatever, if there's a crisis, you can always declare bankruptcy on that second mortgage. You can walk away from it. You can't walk away from student loans. The Bankruptcy Reform Act of 2005 that was championed by both Republicans and Democrats, tragically, made it illegal for student loans to be discharged via bankruptcy. So if you've got a student loan, you are stuck for the rest of your life. And if it's from from one of the private corporations, they can and will come after you aggressively. 16 ways to Sunday. We've got people who are having that because they co-sign student loans for their kids or their grandkids. People who are on Social Security getting their Social Security payments garnished by student loans. I mean, that's how aggressive student loans are. So there's that, and then the credit card companies. They're charging anywhere from 15 to 30%, 29%, I think is the maximum. And a lot of these credit cards, it's just obscene what people are having to pay in credit card interest. And so, again, rather than paying 27 or 29% interest on your credit card, a lot of people say, well, that's crazy. I'm going to get a second mortgage on my house and pay off the credit card. And the second mortgage, the interest in the second mortgage is tax deductible, which credit card debt is not. So it's even a better deal. I mean, these are things that help the middle class. But the student loan companies and the credit card companies came to the Republicans, their lobbyists came to the Republicans, and they said, screw the middle class. We don't give a rat's ass about the middle class. These people are using a loophole in the law that allows them to get, it's not even a loophole. I mean, it's just these people are getting second mortgages on their homes. They're paying a lower interest rate. We're not making as much profit, and if they declare bankruptcy, we can't take them down. We can't destroy their lives. We can't hound them until they're 80 years old. So please change the rules. And sure enough, here we go. This from the Washington Post. HELOCs, this is a particular type of mortgage, first mortgage, and second mortgages will no longer be deductible if you use that money. Now just consider how intrusive this is, right? Used to be if you went to get, if you had a home worth $150,000 and you had a $100,000 mortgage and you wanted to borrow $20,000 on your home, you simply go in and show the bank and the IRS, ultimately, when you claim your tax deduction, that you can pay you've got enough income to pay that second mortgage, and they give you the second mortgage. Well, now you've got to say what you're going to use the money for. Talk about big government, right? The Republicans are, oh, big government's a terrible thing. This is as intrusive as it gets. Again, back to this sentence/paragraph out of the Washington Post. Second mortgages will no longer be deductible if the loan proceeds are used to pay for personal items including college tuition, credit card debt, or student loan debt, or a vehicle or clothing. Now, I don't know that people are taking out loans to buy clothing, but you take out loans to buy vehicles too, and the rates are higher than second mortgages. So what they did is they just changed the tax law so that working class Americans, middle class Americans, can no longer borrow, or at least no longer deduct the interest from the loans, which is a pretty important thing, can no longer borrow on a second mortgage in order to put their kids through school, can no longer borrow on a second mortgage to pay off obscene credit card, pay off their credit cards so they don't have to pay obscene credit card interest rates, can no longer borrow to pay off student debt, to pay off student loans. You can if you can still, legally, you can still borrow the money and pay off your student loan with it, but you can't deduct the interest. So you get whacked. It's like they took a steel pipe and put it to the back of our knees, just bang. And this is these are the big banks who own the Republican Party. These are the car dealers and GM is one of the biggest banks in the country. And they basically own their own banks to make loans on car loans. This is this is the big colleges. This is the student loan companies. This is obscene. Okay, so that's one thing, right? That's just one thing. There's a whole bunch of these. 67 environmental rules. This is what everybody's talking about Scott Pruitt and whether he's flying first class. Well, obviously he is. The guy's a bum, but he's already overturned 33 rules, including a proposed ban on a pesticide that can kill you, flood building standards, new coal leases on public lands. He undid a freeze on that. Methane reporting requirements. Methane, one of the gases that causes global warming. I'll share more of this with you when we come back from the break. Stick around.